Hey, what's up guys, it's Bro Vinny here, back with another Pokemon Sleep video. Today I'm showcasing my Lapis Lakeside team. It is my first official week at Lapis Lakeside, but I do have 5% area bonus by using the easy travel ticket last week. Once again, just a disclaimer letting everyone know that, look, just because I use this team doesn't mean it's suitable for everyone. At the end of the day, depends on whether you're free to play, pay to win, whether you have certain Pokemon, whether you have Berry Finding S on those Pokemon, whether you have some that you've already invested in and would be a powerhouse even if it isn't favorite berry. It would depend on a lot of factors, but this is just to show you guys what I'm currently using, and I am at Master 1 now. I only got one crit dish this week so far. The Master 1 is actually well over the prediction I had, because currently it's only Thursday evening. With still 3 days to go, I'm fairly certain that I'll be able to get to Master 3, which is my goal in order to get the Stuffle Incense. Having reached Master 1, I'm pretty much cleared all of my event missions for week 1, except for this one, but that one's pretty easy to do, of the Lapis Lakeside event. Now, just before I start, there's some general advice here. Since the last update, energy for everyone healer, I feel, even though I haven't done the simulations, I feel is pretty much crucial on every single team. But make sure you get a good one before you invest. I'm going to show you my Wigglytuff. My Wigglytuff has been shown on videos. It's the same one. It's been shown many times before. It is a Berry Finding S1. It has Skill Trigger M, and then lots of speed. And it only recently got to level 50 so that it can also get Helping Speed M, which makes it very fast. Now, despite it only having Skill Trigger M, it does not have Main Skill Chance up. It doesn't even have another skill trigger in its sub-skill slot. It keeps my team at a fairly high energy. Now, this is the end of the day, and it's not a one-off situation. This is now probably 3 out of 4 days where I've remained at above 100% energy for my entire team. And note that this Jiggly is actually energy recovery down. So actually the rest of my team are doing really well in terms of energy. And this is towards the end of the day. And if you've seen my other video, I also talked about how if you want to have the best output for a single Pokemon, you should start your sleep session with an energy of 132. That would give you sneaky snacking at maximum rate the entire night as long as you're not oversleeping. Which unfortunately this Wiggly doesn't get there because it just doesn't have that much skill trigger, but because of the level 6 of the main skill, it is very powerful. It keeps my entire team still around 100% most of the day. Not to mention that the Berry Finding S stacks really well with Helping Speed and Speed Nature. Yes, Fairy typing berry is not for Lapis Lakeside, but the fact that I'm getting double berries means that even when it's not triggering skill, it's providing double the strength it normally would at a very high speed. Don't forget that skill trigger to restore energy is also about giving strength, so anything that gives strength is going to be a benefit regardless. So in its own right, this Wigglytuff is a powerhouse. And yes, while honey is very good, if it's not dessert week, it's rather useless. So there's some downsides here. Unfortunately, a lot of grass Pokemon like Venusaur also produces honey, and unfortunately my Meganium also produces honey. So there's an excess of honey here. And unfortunately, I am not in dessert week. I am currently at salad week, which means that the only real benefits of ingredients from my current Pokemon are tomatoes, and then I kind of have to swap out the Gengar for some leek farmers, depending on what I need for the ingredients. I do need some of these ingredients, so Gengar's doing well, but as it stands, my team is lacking a few other ingredient types. But despite that, I have made it to Master 1 with only a 5% area bonus. So let's go through why I picked this team. So almost without a doubt, you should always start with some sort of Berry Finding S that is favorite for that island, and hopefully it's the berry specialist. So in this case, my Meganium has ×3 Durum Berry, and eventually it will have helping speed M if I put a sub-skill seed on it. Unfortunately, when I do unlock that level 50, there'll be a problem because when I use a sub-skill seed, there'll be a 50-50 chance that it would activate on the inventory instead. And then it might activate on it one more time before I'm guaranteed to have the helping speed boosted. Inventory is not great for berry specialists, so this is going to be a risky one. Maybe if I eventually do find a better Meganium, I will swap it out. But at this stage, I'll accept that it's not the best, but it will be my powerhouse for weeks to come at Lapis Lakeside. And the nature kind of sucks. Which brings me to my second berry finding S Pokemon, which is Venusaur. And yes, again, berry finding S can harm ingredient production, but where it's not farming ingredients, it's giving me double the berry strength that it would normally give. So as long as I'm managing my resources properly and collecting frequently enough so that it doesn't hit that carry limit with its berry finding S, it's not going to be a problem. Thankfully, it will continue to get better as I level it up to level 50. Unfortunately, the time it takes for it to get there would be a bit longer because of EXP gain down. Having said that, it is the best down nature for an ingredient specialist because nowadays you don't want energy down, you don't want speed down. In many cases, you don't want main skill chance down, but then in some cases, it's okay to have main skill chance down. Not in this case though. Ingredient magnet is nice, and definitely not ingredient finder down. So something has to be down, so EXP down is probably the best down nature to have. As for Gengar, as I said before, I'm using it for the mushrooms. It will continue to get better once it unlocks inventory L. And it's a very speedy one, which stacks very nicely with berry finding, but also any ingredients that it finds. Unfortunately, I don't know if it will be my long-term Gengar because I would prefer to have another mushroom at level 60. Having said that, if I can find another Pokemon that has level 60 mushrooms, I may be able to negate this problem. Here are a few choices for me. So the best one would be Gengar at level 60. So Absol could be one as well, but I also need Absol for apples and cacao, so I don't know if I would do that. Abomasnow, I would prefer to focus on eggs, but it's a possibility. Golem, I would prefer to focus on beans, but again, it could be a possibility. Anyway, level 60 is not unlocked yet, so not something to worry about at this stage. Maybe new Pokemon will come along with mushrooms. And then, depending on what I need for what dishes, I will be swapping out this Gengar for things that produce ginger, beans, leek. I don't really need any sausages because I've got two Pokemon that are berry specialists that I can use that also produce sausages. Yes, they certainly don't produce them at a very high rate, but I could use them in the team all day producing berries anyway, so there's no harm in that. Right now, I'm not using Blastoise. I haven't needed milk or cacao yet, and the only dish that really uses cacao is a low strength in salads, and that would be the contrary chocolate meat salad, which isn't that powerful anyway, with only a 17% recipe bonus. As for the last slot on this team, I've decided not to go with my Mankey with berry finding S because the investment costs were too high to even match that of my berry finding S to toilet. And this here is the problem. Because Feraligatr is so good, so my Feraligatr is so good. I mean, this guy's an absolute unit. Look at him, he's got helping speed, berry finding S, helping speed again, energy recovery up, which is very good now. And I also like that it's got main skill chance down. The only thing that could improve on that is EXP down, but then it might not be level 50 at this point. Based on the RaenonX calculator at level 50 with those stats, I'm looking at a berry strength, so ignoring ingredients for a moment, a berry strength of 19,000 without any favorite typing. So here I'm going to use the sorting function in RaenonX calculator. So there's a difference, by the way. These two symbols are different things. The first one is a filter option, and the second one here is the sorting function, which also includes adding things like favorite berries and just settings in general. So I'm over here in the sorting area and I'm putting on berry strength. I'm going to ignore dish strength just to keep things simple. And I'm not yet going to put on Lakeside as my research area. So what I'm going to do now is look at how strong my Pokemon are sorted in order of berry strength. So berry strength because I selected that here. If you want to change that, you can also do total strength if you want, or maybe you don't want to do ingredient strength, but it's up to you. I'm going to focus on berry strength because that is the meta. And without any favorite typing, my real level 50 Feraligatr, not a theoretical example here, is at the top of, well, everything right now. So if I were to invest that level 12 Mankey that I've got, how far would I need to invest this guy in order to beat the Feraligatr at level 50? And how much resources do I even have right now? Now, because I just dumped all my Dream Shards to expand pot to the maximum, I don't have enough Dream Shards, but let's assume that we did. I could only get it up to level about 34. So is it enough? Well, what I've done is done three examples here of what the Mankey looks like. This is the real Mankey that I haven't invested. If I invest it to the level 30 point, how strong will that be? And if I've maximally invested in it long term, how strong that would be. Here are some other sort of realistic examples that I've put that I actually own these Pokemon, just for comparison. So assuming no favorite berry typing, in terms of berry strength, and I'll go through this chart with you guys since I haven't done this before. In terms of berry strength, well, let's go through this chart first. These are just the stats of the Pokemon, which sleeping style it belongs to, what ingredients that Pokemon has, and what berry typing it is. And if we scroll across, this here is the ingredient finding rate. Last I checked, that is not yet modified for the ingredient finding subskills. And if we further scroll across, what I'm looking at is this here. So that's like how many berries per a certain period of time. I'm not exactly sure how much time we're talking about, but how much strength that berry production produces. And of course that would vary based on your settings of when you sleep, so make sure you got your settings up here correct. And at base, Oran Berry is actually a very powerful berry, making Feraligatr at the top of the list. And Primeape doesn't even come close at level 50. But let's talk about favorite typing, because we're at Lapis Lakeside. If I set on favorite typing, you'll see the order of them quickly swaps around. Yes, a maximally invested Berry Finding S Primeape of my stats, of my Mankey stats, will be a lot better than a Berry Finding S Feraligatr. But then the problem is the investment, because at level 30, that Primeape is actually much worse than my Feraligatr. Okay, maybe a little worse, not a lot worse. But for 50,000 Dream Shards and all of my Mankey candies at once, just for it to not be quite as good as what I already have, I think I might hang on to that Mankey for a little while longer before I invest. So either strategy would have worked out for me if I decided to invest into a level 30 Primeape, or if I had just stuck to Feraligatr, they both would have produced good results. And if I were to do one more comparison, I'm going to put in this really good Walrein into the calculator to see how it ranks against Feraligatr and level 50 Primeape. So in actual fact, the Walrein is even better than Feraligatr without favorite berry typing. With favorite berry typing, once again, Primeape would go on top. The main reason why I'm not using Walrein at this very moment is because I'm trying to avoid that level 50, which kinda makes it worse because it's ingredient finding S. And if I put it to sleep, it will gain EXP and maybe reach that level 50, which I'm trying to avoid at this stage. But what's interesting here is that my level 35 Venusaur, in terms of berry strength, even with favorite typing, isn't better than my Feraligatr and Walrein, who have berry finding S and are not favorite typing. largely because they're different levels, but also because, well, Venusaur is not a berry specialist, even though it has berry finding S. So if I'm after a little bit more power, a bit more strength to the Snorlax, and I'm not really using the tomatoes that Venusaur is producing, I could swap out the Venusaur for the Walrein. But just to keep my ingredient bag relatively full and a little bit of ingredient magnet here and there, I'm keeping Venusaur on my team for now. So one of the reasons why this calculation is so far off what I'm currently at is because, well, I actually haven't input any dish types into my settings, as I was focused on berry strength. And over the last 12 meals up to Thursday, I've been cooking consistently anywhere between 18,000 to 22,000 dish strength recipes, which alone only from those meals would be bigger in the total ingredient power than what I simulated. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so far ahead of the original simulation from one of my previous videos. And of course the other reason is I'm using Feraligatr at level 50, whereas my original simulation used a Mankey at level 30, which is actually a bit worse, but also would have costed me a lot to invest. If you made it this far into the video, well done. I'm going to give you guys a tip at the RaenonX calculator. Have you noticed that it can take a lot of time to put in all the stats for every single Pokemon for your team building, for your Pokemon box? Well, there's actually a quicker way to do all of that, and that is using the OCR feature. That is image recognition, which currently is available only via Rate My Mon. So if you go to Rate My Mon, you will see this button here, which is to image recognize, to input all the stats for you. But there are some tricks to this. So the way I like to do the screenshot is to scroll down. So don't screenshot here because you're not telling the calculator anything. You need all the stats within the same screenshot. Of course, at the level 0, the ingredient doesn't matter because it's locked in, so you can just cover that. And this is how I like to do all my screenshots, including when I show other members, or not even just for the calculator, when I show other people the stats of my Pokemon. This is how I like to do it. Of course, with different phones, you might not get the entire length of this page, but just do the best as you can. And once you've got a screenshot, now my recommendation is not to use this button straight away, but you can. Let's see what happens when you use the OCR button. You will be asked to upload the file, so click on this button here, and obviously just have the correct language selected. Select the Pokemon where you've taken the screenshot of, so in this case I'm going to select the Banette that I took a screenshot of, and then click OCR. And it will take a moment to recognize the Pokemon and all of its stats, instantly inputting all of it into the calculator. So let's double check whether that's all correct. So if you click on this button here, you'll see, well, helping speed, S, inventory, S, skill trigger, S, skill level up, S, ingredient finder, S. What you can do is click on the image itself to see if that matches. Helping speed S, inventory S, skill trigger S, skill level up S, ingredient finder S. Of course, you can always make changes if there's any inaccuracies. Otherwise, if it's all correct, you click the tick button, and there you go, everything's inputted. Now I do find that the ingredients are often wrong. I don't know why, but other than that, it's mostly accurate. So just make changes here to the correct stats, but you can always double check yourself for everything else as well. And also double check the evolution count. Did you evolve it or not? And once you've double checked everything, make sure you upload it to your Pokemon box. So that's this button here. The main button is for you to get a rating on the calculator, but that's not the topic of this video. So I'm going to click this button. You have to select the level that it was at, which for that Banette was 23, and click the little cloud button, and now it will be available via your Pokemon box. So all your saved Pokemon, and as you can see here, my Banette is now in my Pokemon box. The OCR feature is not currently available in the Pokemon box, unfortunately, but Raenon is aware of it. It may be a feature in the future. Oh, that kind of rhymed. Now, the reason why I said I wouldn't use this button straight away is because if you use this button and you submit a photo where a Pokemon's name has been renamed, for example, I'm going to input my Gengar here and press input, Unfortunately, there is no image recognition, graphic recognition of the Pokemon just yet, which may be a feature in the future, once again. But when this is like that, showing no Pokemon available, then you can't click the tick, which means it won't save. You can't even input that Pokemon, it just doesn't exist. So you either rename your Pokemon again back to what they're supposed to be, or alternatively, if I want that Gengar to use the OCR feature, what I do is I click Gengar. Then I scroll to the bottom and then use the second OCR feature, the OCR button. I know it's a bit tricky. Again, I've told Raenon about this, so he knows, he's aware of this issue. But because of all the complications of developing this calculator, it just takes a long time to make something very intuitive. Regardless, this is how you mitigate that issue, by first selecting the Pokemon and then going to the OCR feature, the second OCR button, not the first OCR button. That way, even if you renamed your Pokemon, it's not a problem. Once again, this Gengar's ingredient list is incorrect, but everything else is correct. And once again, make sure you export that Pokemon to your Pokemon box. Then you can come over to the Pokemon box and compare their berry strength or whatever you want to compare. So using the sort function. Let me know how you guys are going with this event so far, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe.